Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. And I appreciate so very much you being with me. You'll notice I got my congestion back. Had tons and tons of problem talking this morning. I hope I can make it through it sort of kind of okay. But anyway, thanks for joining me. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And I want to ask the question. It is a burning question in evangelical circles right now. I mean, you're just seeing as YouTube, YouTube video, TikTok, it's everywhere. The question is Donald Trump the man of sin? Oh my goodness gracious. I have seen videos already. Donald Trump is the man of sin. How do they supposedly know this? Well, he made peace between the radical Hamas Palestinians and Israel. He got hostages released. That must mean that we're in the last days. That must mean he's the man of sin. That must mean, wait a minute. There's something wrong here. You know, it's so ironic and it's so sad to me. Here we are, not quite a month away from thousands upon thousands upon thousands of false prophecies and false prophets who told us the rapture was going to be September 23rd, 24th, 2025, and they knew it because, supposedly, the Holy Spirit spoke to them directly in a voice as audible as mine right now. Probably without the congestion, right? Sorry, couldn't help that. So, all of these so-called inspired prophets and prophecies and prophetesses failed. Did that deter them? Well, no. They immediately turned around and, quote, recalculated and said, well, the rapture will be October the 7th and 8th, maybe the 9th. Oh, wait. What is today? This is October. I'm filming this on the 15th of October. Whoops. Has this deterred them? Nope. With Donald Trump negotiating a peace treaty between Hamas and Israel, allowing for the release of hundreds of hostages, some of whom had been held by Hamas for 2 years, that no other president had been able to get released. And it's absolutely amazing to me that a former president is now trying to take credit for what Donald Trump did. Absolutely amazing. He did absolutely nothing, got absolutely nothing accomplished, and yet all of this is to be given to him by way of praise. That's pretty despicable. You'll have to excuse my political commentary here, but that's just ridiculous. So the real question here, the question before us is Donald Trump the man of sin? Well, here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. In the dispensational timeline, the man of sin, you got to catch the power of this. Ladies and gentlemen, this shows how, please excuse my bluntness, okay? I'm not trying to be unkind. But we constantly see dispensationalists kicking the can down the road. What do I mean by that? Well, when you read the literature in the dispensational paradigm, what do you have? You have the sudden, mysterious, miraculous rapture. The church is removed from the earth. Then, watch this, then after the rapture, are you following me? Do you catch the power of this? After the rapture, the man of sin arises, and then after the rapture, negotiates a peace treaty between Israel and the Muslim world that allows for the rebuilding of the temple. Has Donald Trump done even a single negotiation to allow for the building of the temple? Not that I'm aware of. His negotiation has been strictly, solely, and exclusively to bring peace to the Middle East, to get those hostages released. And by the way, in case you didn't notice it, the rapture has not occurred. So if Donald Trump is the man of sin, the rapture, who negotiates peace treaty, the rapture should have already occurred. I think I'm on real safe ground here to say the rapture has not occurred. And let's not forget, 2,000 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, are you paying attention? 2,000 years ago, Paul wrote to the Thessalonica church because they were saying the day, I'm so sorry, the day of the Lord had already come. Now, wait a minute. Once again, in the dispensational paradigm, you got to understand something. In the dispensational narrative, you have the rapture. 7 years later, give or take, you have the second coming to establish the earthly kingdom on earth, literal, physical temple rebuilt. And then after 1,000 years of peace on earth, then, let me reiterate, then after the 1,000-year reign, then the day of the Lord occurs. Do you see a train coming? Do you catch the power of what Paul is saying in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2? He is saying there were some at some at Thessalonica. He said it again, that there were some at Ephesus who believed that the day of the Lord and the resurrection had already happened. In order to say the day of the Lord has already come, that necessitates the second coming had already happened. That necessitates the rapture had already happened. That necessitates the man of sin had already risen. Necessitates the man of sin had negotiated a peace treaty allowing for the building of a temple. The temple had been rebuilt. The man of sin breaks the covenant in the middle of the 7-year period after 3.5 years, declares war on the Jews, and Jesus comes out of heaven to deliver them. All of that is absolutely essential to say the day of the Lord had already come. Folks, what is happening when people say, oh, Donald J. Trump is the man of sin? Well, folks, in order for that to be true, And for this peace treaty to be a part of the dispensational narrative, the rapture had to have already occurred. But not only that, look, in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, Paul says some things that the dispensational world is absolutely 100% ignoring, or, again, excuse my bluntness, perverting. Paul says, I'll begin reading the verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day, what day? The day of the Lord will not come except there come first a falling away, and that man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshiped, so that he as God sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. The man of sin sits in the temple. Now look, I was raised believing, I was raised teaching that when Paul said the man of sin sits in the temple of God, that refers to the Roman Catholic Pope, because he usurped authority over the church. He controls the church. He is the man of sin. And I used to see some really, really amazing sheet charts, with the Pope's hat on him and the inscription on it. Oh, I was convinced. Trouble of it is, there's not a word of truth to any of that. That's a totally anachronistic perspective and doctrine. But the dispensational world, the dispensational world says, oh, then the man of sin would sit in the Jerusalem temple. Well, point number one, Donald Trump has never sat in a temple in Jerusalem. And there's a secondary statement right behind that. Donald Trump will never sit in a temple in Jerusalem. You know how I know? Well, from the time of the signing of the peace treaty until the man of sin violates his treaty, that's only 3.5 years. Well, guess what? There's no temple been rebuilt. And by the way, all of those who say, oh, Donald Trump is a man of sin, you know what's necessary? The man of sin temple is the one that has to be rebuilt. And you can't find one word, to my knowledge at least, you can't find one word where Donald Trump has said one word about rebuilding the temple. He has no authority. He has not attempted to get the Muslim world to negotiate to let the Jews rebuild the temple. How long would it take to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem? Sorry, folks. Donald Trump doesn't have enough time left to build that temple. You do realize that the Herodian temple took 46 years to build? John chapter 2. Okay, we have modern technology, etc., etc. Do you think that temple, as resplendent as it was, do you think that could be built in the ensuing 3 years? Trump's been in office right at 3 years. I'm sorry, right at 1 year. I'm terrible at math. Couldn't be done, ladies and gentlemen. The math doesn't work. Not only that, this man of sin sits in the temple of God, calling himself God. Well, no, Donald Trump has never declared himself to be God. Not even close. He has never attempted to usurp any authority of God. Matter of fact, his humility in regard to Christ has really been quite remarkable since the assassination attempts on his life. Now, look, you can say Donald Trump is arrogant, he's haughty, he's caustic. Oh, by the way, I happen to agree with all of that. I find Donald Trump to be offensive in many ways. The deal is, he does what he says he is going to do. And he has never said, oh, I'm going to build the Jerusalem temple. He's never said that. He has never said, I am God. He has never said, I'm like God. So every single thing that Paul uses to describe the man of sin is counter to what Donald Trump has said or done. He doesn't fit the bill. Then he says, Paul says, and now you know the one who is withholding, and I'm reading from the King James, conflating it with several different translations. Pardon me. The King James says, and now you know what? Withholds that he might be revealed in his time. In other words, what Paul is saying, there is someone or something. In the Greek, it's not determinative. It's not easily determined. So it is either someone or something is holding him back from being manifested as the man of sin. Well, let me ask you. If you know that Donald Trump is the man of sin, that he's been manifested, right? What's been holding him back? Who has been holding him back? The dispensational world is just all a Twitter. Go, 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 go. Yes, yes, yes. What's been holding him back? Now, one thing for sure, and again, this is something that the dispensational world absolutely ignores. Paul, writing in 51 AD, said, and you know the mystery of iniquity, that's the man of sin. You don't have the mystery of iniquity at work without the man of lawlessness who creates that state or status of lawlessness. Then shall verse 7, the mystery of iniquity is already at work. Now look, folks, that means the man of sin was alive at work when Paul wrote. He simply had not yet been fully manifested as the enemy of Christ that he would be manifested as in the near future. Folks, the man of sin was alive in the first century. Now, let me digress here for just a moment. John, who heard Jesus' prediction about the coming of false prophets, etc., who knew of Paul's writings, John the Apostle wrote 1 John chapter 2, verse 18. Little children, it is the last hour. What is the last hour? It's the time of the coming of the Lord, the judgment, the resurrection. John says, little children, it is the last hour. As you have heard that Antichrist should come, even now there are many Antichrists. Well, where did the Antichrist come from? They're the representatives of the Antichrist. There are some scholars who say there was never going to be a singular man of sin, but there were going to be many representatives of that man of sin image. Whichever, it doesn't matter. John said, there are many Antichrists. As you have heard that Antichrist should come, even now there are many Antichrists, whereby you know it is the last hour. Now, you know, I've said this on many occasions. It is absolutely stunning to me. It's almost scary. It's so bad of how some people, in order to avoid the imminence, in order to avoid the force and the power of what the New Testament says about the imminence of the end, you know how they explain 1 John 2, verse 18? Little children, it's the last hour. Oh, it's the Christian age. And as you've heard that Antichrist should come, even now there are many Antichrists, thereby you know it's the Christian age. So I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, please excuse my bluntness. This is so ridiculous. It shouldn't even register on any person's logical narrative. We don't know that the Christian age has come because Jesus died on the cross, rose from the dead. That's not how we know the Christian age has arrived. No. We know the Christian age has arrived because they're antichrists. I don't know how you could get any more ridiculous than that. Okay, so here is Paul saying, the man of sin is already alive. The spirit of lawlessness is already at work. Here is John saying there are many antichrists already. Thereby it's the last hour. Folks, this is incredible. This is 2,000 years ago. To rip 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 out of its audience relevance of Paul writing to people whom he had told the man of sin is already at work, the spirit of lawlessness is already at work, and he sits in the temple of God, is just hugely anachronistic. To claim that Donald Trump is the man of sin, and I don't really care if you like him or not, doesn't matter. The question is Donald Trump the Antichrist? And the biblical, scriptural, undeniable answer to that question is no, he is not. If you want to know when all Bible prophecy was actually fulfilled, you need to get a copy of my book. These are the days when all things must be fulfilled. This book absolutely explodes the dispensational timeline and narrative. When did Jesus say all prophecy would be fulfilled? Well, speaking about the fall of Jerusalem that was impending, coming in that generation, he said, these be the days of vengeance in which all things written must be fulfilled. And you know, you have commentators like Kenneth Gentry who say, well, all that Jesus meant there, because of the perfect tense nature of the Greek text, all that he mentioned there, all that Jesus was talking about, these are the days in which all things that have already been written prior to Jesus saying those words will be fulfilled. In other words, as Gentry says, what Jesus was saying is all Old Testament prophecy would be fulfilled in AD 70. I concur with that 100%. Here's what Gentry, ever so conveniently, fails to notice. The coming of the Lord, the judgment, the resurrection, the kingdom, salvation, the new creation, the new Jerusalem, were all predicted in the Old Testament. Therefore, when Kenneth Gentry and others say all that Jesus was saying was that all things written in the Old Testament would be fulfilled, they are tacitly admitting all prophecy was fulfilled in AD 70, because, to reiterate, coming of the Lord, judgment, resurrection, kingdom, salvation, new creation, new heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem, etc., etc. All of those were predicted in the Old Testament. And as I point out in this book, and this is unique. You're not going to find this in any other book that I'm aware of. And I looked and I looked and I looked. Every single constituent element of eschatology, all of those things that I just mentioned, those prophecies in the Old Testament are invariably linked with the time of the AD 70 judgment of Jerusalem. You catch the power of that? That means, Donald Trump is not the man of sin. Hey, thanks so much for joining me on this morning's Morning Musings. You have a fantastic weekend. I've got a swap meet to go to. Woohoo! I'll see you on Monday.